I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm excited whenever I get a chance to speak on behalf of the 4,000 men and women of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. Sign me up. I'm excited. I love what I do. I love the people that we have. You guys see some of the new recruits. Hopefully we'll get some more from this class, and then a lot of you being criminal justice majors, hopefully we'll follow suit and follow your dreams, and hopefully some of those dreams will lead you to the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. So what I figured we would do is I'll tell you a little bit about the office. I'll tell you a little bit about us, what makes us different or what we feel is making us different. And then what I thought we'd go into is talk about some obstacles. What obstacles are people facing in law enforcement? And I'll use the term law enforcement, but make no mistake about it, when I say law enforcement, I'm talking about detention, I'm talking about patrol, I'm talking about CPID that we work, all our court services. Law enforcement is a general term, but when you're talking about law enforcement, you're talking about all the components that make up law enforcement in general. So what's our role, like I just said, is law enforcement detention, child protective investigation is another one. One of the toughest jobs in our office is the child and protective investigators. You have to have a 4-year degree, and you go out and imagine. I call them our unsung heroes. They have to go out, they have to make decisions. And imagine now, think about this. Put yourself in this situation. You have to make a decision. You have a child who you're going to take away from a parent. Can you think of anything worse than that? Even knowing that it's probably the right thing to do for whatever reason. And then being that investigator, you have to quickly examine, digest all the facts, and then you have to come up with the outcome. Is it serious enough? Can we get this parent counseling? Maybe it's the way they were raised. Or is it a safety factor where this child has to be removed? And we all watch the news, so we see that it's not a perfect science. You see around the country sometimes where we don't remove a child, and we should, and we see some of the results. You know, we don't normally hear about some of the times where we remove a child, the child ends up going back later on, because that's not newsworthy. People just want to hear some of the, unfortunately, gruesome cells, the reality TV, whatever it is. So you don't hear that as much. 170 years of tradition at the Sheriff's Office. Our Sheriff G, is in his 4th term. He's been here 39 years. And I say that not to be braggadocious, but I say that to show you about how we have a long history of tradition. What we do here in the Tampa Bay area, how the Tampa Bay area is growing, continues to grow, and how much tradition means to us and why it means so much. Whether you're in a uniform, how we train, how we do everything is based on tradition. Now, obviously, we have to evolve along with society and society's needs, and I'll touch on that. But tradition and being that history that comes along with the Sheriff's Office means everything to us. Let me touch real quick before we move forward. What do I do? What's my role? We have 4,000 members in the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, from civilian staff to sworn. Everything that we do. Out of those 4,000, we have 4 colonels. We have a patrol colonel, we have a detention colonel, we have an investigation colonel, and then we have an operational support colonel. And I always laugh with the other 3 colonels. They have patrol, they have detention, they have investigations. I have everything else. So I have everything else. And once again, that's not bragging. It's actually being promoted in September. It's been a big adjustment for me. I've always worked undercover, I've worked in investigations, and now to come work in operational support, and it'll make sense here in a second. I have the training division. I have our hiring, our recruitment screening with Director Lozada. Everyone from the janitor up to sworn to accountant to whatever your role is at a sheriff's office goes through Director Lozada. I have risk management, employee benefits, all our insurance programs. What benefits do our employees get? At what cost? What cost can the sheriff incur? So we try to pass some of that savings, or we try to eat and ingest some of that savings, so we don't end up passing it on to our employee. It's kind of counterproductive. We love to give our employees raises, and at the same time their health insurance goes up. But I think we've done a good job. For me, I'm a cop. I've never dealt with health insurance. I've never dealt with construction. I now have facilities. All the sheriff's office facilities, all our new construction at the range, all the construction we have going on with our new District 5. We just expanded. We're having a new district that opens in May. So as you could imagine, being a police officer, you guys in here studying criminology. Imagine one day now someone says, hey, 25 years later, now you're going to go into construction business. And I laugh because now I'm in the car business. I have all the I think, is it 2,800 cars? 2,800 cars, we manage a fleet of 2,800 vehicles. So I have all the cars. So now I always joke with my wife, now I'm in the car business too. So I do all the cars. Risk management, employee benefits, I have the Homeland Security Division. And I love it. This is where it's a lot of fun. I was on a SWAT team for years, so now to come back as a SWAT commander is a ton of fun. And everyone else says, oh, you're lucky, because with Homeland Security, I have the boats, I have the planes, I have the helicopters, I have the SWAT team, the bomb team, dive team, all the different crowd management team, which is a lot of fun. Bad part is when something goes bad, it's very expensive too. When something goes wrong with the helicopter or the plane or one of the boats needs a new engine. So when you ride the high, you ride the high. When something goes wrong, I'm the first one that gets called. Hey, listen, why did one of the boaters run over something and now they need new props? Or the helicopter blade, they didn't start it properly and they did a hot start and it has to get shipped out to Texas and come back. So a lot of fun. But unfortunately it comes at a cost. I have the Community Outreach Division. We're one of the few departments in the country that have a Community Outreach Division, and I'll again touch on it why I feel that's so important. But with the Community Outreach Division, we have a division that's responsible for nothing but outreach into the community. As you guys are studying, and I'm sure you guys talk about it all the time, what you're talking about is what can police do different? What can law enforcement do different? We see around the country, we see riots, we see the distrust that's been caused. What can we do to overcome that? More importantly, what can we do to prevent that? And we feel it's being out in the community. So the sheriff catches a lot of flack sometimes, and why don't you take all those people in the Community Outreach Division and flood them out flood them on the streets. They'll keep us safer, they'll respond to calls for service. Well, because we know we're preventing crime by having our Business Watch program, our Church Watch that we do, our faith-based programs. We do a lot of charity programs, and the sheriff has a simple philosophy. If we're not out there in the community raising money for these different charities and helping them, who's going to? Who's going to do it? We know we're going to do it. So very, very important to us. In the Community Outreach Division is all the schools. Once again, we're in every middle school and high school in Hillsborough County, and now we're also in 20 elementary schools. So we picked the highest crime elementary schools. We picked the ones that there may be perceived problems, and it's not just crime. It could be a distrust by police, and we'll send a deputy in there, and it's amazing now to see how parents drop their kids off to school and they run to the deputy. It's like the first thing they have to do is say hello or say goodbye to the deputy. So that factor of running from the police has now been changed to where they run to the police. And the same thing, I'll touch a little bit with the Boys and Girls Club, things that we're doing. Our mission and values, you guys can read those. I don't need to go over those. But again, very important to what we believe. So what are some of the challenges? I touched on lightly about some of the challenges facing law enforcement today. And what is the role of law enforcement? Yes, we're the protector, we're the enforcer. But a lot of times people don't realize we're the social worker too. And I always speak to when I'm talking even to my deputies, when I come into a different department, I tell them, some people need advice. Some people need a hug, and then there's going to be those who need handcuffs. And that's our job as a law enforcement officer, is to decipher through that. Who needs what? It could be just advice. The sheriff prides himself in the sheriff's office not just being, hey, it's a police problem, because you guys will learn, as those of you following the law enforcement path, that people are going to call and it could be, my electric's turned off. I have no money for food. I've been kicked out. Someone at the hotel, we had one, it was a deputy not too long ago, that the father went out and diverted the TECO meter and hooked up the electric, because I think it was Thanksgiving, it was chilly, and his family was cold, and he worked. He wasn't because he's just sitting around being lazy. He was working his rear end off, but he didn't get paid till the following week. And here we are, Thanksgiving holiday weekend. They didn't get paid. He had no money, and I'm not justifying it by any means. But the deputy did a good job, not arresting him, arresting his family, gave him a notice to appear. So, hey, you're going to have to answer what you did, but you can do it later on. But this is what I think makes our deputies different. The deputy goes down the street and goes and rents a hotel room for the family for 3 days to get them through the holiday weekend. Then he goes back to the family and says, hey, there's a special program, a grant program that gets you 3 days to help you get back on your feet. And it's this hotel as a participating member. If you guys will follow me down there, I'll get you set up. And gave him the room keys and this and that. Never, ever. He didn't do it for everyone to say, hey, listen, you're such a great deputy, you did this. He didn't want the recognition. He just wanted the help. So he drops the family off, they get settled. The only way we found out about it is they had another disturbance call at the hotel, and another deputy responded, and the clerk was telling the other deputy what happened, what the other deputy did. That's the only way we found out about it. So, one thing I want to touch on too is 911 calls. You know, no one dials 911 when things are going good. Hey, I'm having a great day. My son just got accepted to college, or hey, I just scored a high score on a test. Let me call 911 and tell the police. No, they call 911 when they don't know what else to do. Everything else in their familiar unit is broken down. What do? I call 911. That's when we get called. Let's talk about some of the openings that we have, because I feel that's important, because I want to touch on the challenge of law enforcement. Law enforcement's not a popular career right now. Used to be. Even with movies coming out, we'll see a little spike when you see a cool movie and people are like, I want to be like that. You know, it's not affecting us like it should be. And this isn't just a Tampa Bay area. This is a nationwide epidemic. And I learned that. I was at the FBI National Academy up in Quantico for 3 months. And when I was there, you sit down and you listen to all the departments around the country, even around the world. There were people there from Philippines, Kazakhstan, all around. They're all facing the same problem. We're going through a little dip here to where it's hard to recruit. It's tough to recruit. We have 225 openings on patrol right now. 225 openings. With the population boom that we have coming, we just did some of our latest logistical manpower studies, and we show that there's going to be a 50% population increase in Hillsborough County between now and 2030. 50%, that's an additional 530,000 people coming to Hillsborough County. So we have our 225 that we're already short, plus we went to the county commissioner and said, listen, we need 50 this year and 50 coming up. So there's good news in that. When I say that, there's good news. There's plenty of opportunity to be employed out there. But be at the top of your study, what you guys do. Because as you're finding out, and I'm sure talking to your friends and seeing what's happening, criminology is a very popular doctrine of study. You know, criminology, people think it's interesting, and it is. It's fascinating. You learn about law enforcement, psychological behavior of criminals and criminal behavior. I always found it interesting. But you have to make yourself marketable. You'll see when they go to different academies, they see different things that happen. They're picking the cream of the crop. We only hire 3% of the thousands of applicants that we get. So you do the numbers, 3%. You're seeing 3% right here, and that's why I applaud them. It's not easy to get here. We have a more difficult, more stringent background and hiring process than the FBI right now. But the sheriff, again, has a simple philosophy. I'd rather work short than bring one of the wrong people in here that don't fit the culture of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. In detention, we have 150 openings. Ton of openings. And again, you have to think, population's growing, we need more deputies on the street. We're going to need more deputies in the jail too. So that's coming. I think what I want you guys to take away from that is we want those who want to make a difference. It's not just a job. If you're getting into law enforcement for the money or just because, hey, I need a job, it's not a job, it's a career. And the good thing is coming with that career comes great benefits. And I know being younger, I never thought of that. Retirement, I never thought about any of that. You know, but where else can you go work 30 years and make 75% of what you've made in your top 5 years for the rest of your life? There's not a lot of careers that can say that. Plus insurance. Our insurance, we get taxed with the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, we get taxed because we have what we call as a Cadillac program. We actually have an insurance program that's better than most, which we strive for. We want our employees to have a great program, but then we pay a tax because of it, but we're certainly pay the tax because of the better benefits. So what makes the Sheriff's Office, what makes Tampa Bay different? And I touched on it before, and it's building those community blocks. Our biggest asset is our employees. Our employees and personnel costs account for almost 90% of what we do. That's almost 90% of our budget is that. But our employees are what makes a difference. Why is it different? I touched on it before. We're out in the community. The community knows us. Think about that. It's real simple. You guys get to know each other. When you get to know somebody in any relationship, you build that trust. That's ultimately what we want. Trust builds confidence in any of your relationships. Anyone in this room, as you guys get to know each other, you get to trust each other. Well, it's no different in law enforcement. We're out in the community. Boys and Girls Club, we have a deputy at every single one of the Boys and Girls Clubs. We're opening up 3 additional Boys and Girls Clubs right now. We're proud of that. We're working with the county. Instead of having a mortgage and everything, all these incurred expenses that the Boys and Girls Clubs have to have, we take county parks. We get some funding, some very generous donors donate. We fix it up. We can change it. Instead of seeing 75 kids, we double it. We have 150 kids, some 300 kids, depending on the size of the program, so we can serve more kids. Why is that important? Because we know that's where we can make a difference. As adults, we've made a decision whether we're going to live a criminal life, what kind of behavior we're going to do. Our core character has already been built. But we know what we can do to prevent crime is to focus more on our children, because we know that's where we're making a difference. Show them that A, there's a different way of life, and B, and some people might say, well, we don't understand B. A, there's a different way of life. You don't have to live. It doesn't matter race, color, your economic background. Throw it all out the door. You know, you're not a victim of circumstance or a victim of environment. So we show these kids, hey, there is a different way of life. And then B, and somebody cares. Somebody cares. Someone cares. There is a different way of life, and that someone cares about you. You wouldn't believe how far that's gone. I'll touch real quick on a program up in Philadelphia. They have teenage girls who get pregnant, and they bring a nurse in to see them every day and help them with their studies and show them, hey, someone cares. Your life's not over because you got pregnant. Their graduation rates and everything never declined. In the Boys and Girls Club, what we're doing in Nucio Park area, our first event we opened, we had crime drop by almost 50% the first year it was open. It's become a community focal point there at the Freddie Solomon Boys and Girls Club. Graduation rates in the last 3 years for all Boys and Girls Clubs from going into 40 percentile to the 93 percentile. Now a lot of Boys and Girls Clubs, they're just, it's more recent. Now they're looking to see how many are going into secondary education. So it's helping. That's why we're involved in those programs. The sheriff's like, listen, it's expensive to arrest a child. It's expensive to put them through the process, incarcerate them, do whatever. We can make a difference and actually save money in the front end. So we're curious to see how this is going to go long term as we're moving along. Building blocks in law enforcement. It's going to be no surprise to anyone in here, is education. You know, back in the day, you didn't need a degree to get hired with any type of law enforcement office. It was a blue-collar job. Someone went out in the beat, and that was it. It's different now. It's a professional position. You're seeing us move into more of the white collar. You know, starting pay is $48,000. That doesn't include all the benefits that you get, your medical, everything that's included in there, the contributions towards your retirement. You know, add all that up. That's a good paying job. It's not a blue-collar job anymore. It's more professional. But with being highly paid comes an expectation to be highly trained and highly qualified. Education, education, education. 25 years later, I still learn every day. I still educate myself every day. If it's some type of advanced reading, some type of advanced training, that's very important to us. Why we focus so much on training, the number of hours. Challenges in law enforcement demand up-to-date data and discussions. And what I mean by that is You must, to be a successful law enforcement agency in your community, you have to listen and learn to the needs of the community. The needs of the community here may be different than someplace in Colorado, Los Angeles. So the local agency has to be cognizant and be aware of the needs of the community. What's important to the community? And even within a Tampa Bay community, it's diverse. What they need from a law enforcement agency in Waimama is different than East Tampa, which is different in Carrollwood. So you have to acclimate and make sure that you're aware of that. How do we combat that? Number one, again, and I'm going to sound like I'm beating a dead horse by being out in the community. Number two is our minority councils that we have, our minority advisory councils. We bring them in, we meet with them once a month. And we talk to any of them from, we have an Indian, Asian, African American, and a Hispanic, and we meet with them. What's important? What's going on? What can we do better? Once again, educating yourself, garnishing that information so you can back and make yourself a better agency in the community. I know we talked about jobs versus career, and one thing I want to touch on too is how cops are different. Law enforcement, what's different about it? You're held to a higher standard. You're held to a higher standard whether you're on duty or off duty. You're held to a higher standard. I'm sure most of you know a police officer, knows somebody. You hold that person to a higher standard. So realize that as you guys move into your career paths, you're held to a higher standard. How you conduct yourself, what you say, everyone's always looking. How do we serve? Face-to-face contacts, that's our biggest weapon. When we come face-to-face with people, talking to people, you can't have someone who's shy. You can't have someone who's arrogant. You can't have someone who's too aggressive. Be out there. Embrace all elements of society. It's not all about cops and robbers. That's the fun part of the job, don't get me wrong. But it's about being out in the community and having those positive, professional interactions. We talked about the law enforcement openings, detention openings. We have reserves. We have people who love their professional career, but they want to be a reserve. They put themselves through the school and come out and they're reserve deputies. We have reserve ones or reserve two. Reserve ones are fully certified. They can go check out a car and go be a deputy. And we have reserve twos who they follow the path, but they don't have as much credit hours or training, so they're reserve two. They have to be with another deputy or another reserve two. But just to touch a little bit about some of the sworn programs, reserve programs we have, civilian openings, dispatch, crime scene, support staff. Over half of our department's civilian employees. They're truly the backbone of what we do. Yes, the sworn officers are out in front, whether it's in detention and whether it's out in the road, but our civilian employees, they're the backbone of what we do. And if you guys go online, you'll see all the openings that we have, all the different programs. Think about it. Everything that you have to do in a business, we have to do at a governmental agency as well. And I know some of you probably have questions about how do I get hired? I would hope. How do I get hired? What's some of the opportunities? Director Lozada can certainly talk about those. What do we do to recruit? What are we doing? Job fairs. Word of mouth is key. We've learned and tracked that almost 90% of every employee that we hire is because they know somebody in the agency. They have a friend. They've gone in. We've hired people where we've gone into Outback to have lunch, and you strike up a conversation with one of the servers, and they ask you, "Hey, how can I get a job with the sheriff's office?" Church, whatever it is. The bottom line is 90% of it is employee referrals. Who better to sell our agency than our employees? I talked about the starting pay. I want to touch about our training and how important that is to us. Our range. We have the state-of-the-art range that people from all over the state of Florida come to our range. And once again, I don't want anyone to feel that any of my conversation today is being braggadocious. Exciting because I love what our agency has and has to offer, but it's certainly not being bragging by any means. Our shooting simulator, we have a 360-degree shooting simulator that we put a shock device on the gun belts, and we send our deputies into these, and it's a 360-degree simulator. We see how they react. Well, if shouldn't have shot somebody, they should have shot somebody, they should have been more boisterous in their commands, they'll get lit up with a nice little shock, and it does shock you. You won't make the same mistake again. But it's a great tool. We'd rather see our deputies make the mistakes down there on the range in the simulators than certainly out here on the road to where it's for real. So using that. Same thing with the driving simulator. We have a driving simulator. We can simulate it being wet. We can simulate the speed. So you're driving along. Everyone loves to go fast, including me. 80, 90, I get it. But especially when the lights and siren on, the adrenaline's flowing, and you're chasing a bad guy, hey, let's get going. But everyone thinks they can drive better than what they do, and none of us hate to admit, especially guys. I'm a great driver, but the reality is we're not great drivers, and we're overdriving our abilities. So we do all the training we have down there. Shock Fest now. We'll have scenarios to where you shoot, you don't shoot, different force on force, and you'll get a shock. We just approved and purchased 3 mobile target systems, and what that's for is, and you'll see how this is changing. Deputies go out, law enforcement in general goes out and they're static, and they're shooting a static target. That's not realistic. Now you're having a lot of the mentally ill, a lot of true bad guys who are coming at you. Well, it's different now when someone has a gun and they're charging you. You're moving too. So we're trying to better equip our deputies with the training we have. Crime Tech incorporates science and tech in our battle. Eye on Crime. We have dozens of Eye on Crime cameras with tag readers. You drive by, you think you're just driving by in traffic. Meanwhile, our cameras scan your tag and we know everything. We've got so many stolen cars. We don't have any police around. There's no reason to run. We watch them on the Eye on Crime cameras, boom, we block them in. There is no pursuit. There's no injury. There's no damage to the car. There's simply arrest. That's been great. Someone goes by and has a warrant for murder. Boom, it sets off the alarms. They can move in, follow he or her on the crime cameras. Rapid ID print reader. Back in the old days, you didn't have ID. You said you could give a fake name. You can't now. We have a little ID reader. We'll put your print on there. You've been in the system. Boom! In seconds, we know who you are. There's no more hiding. Shot Spotter. One of the few agencies in the country to have Shot Spotter, down to 6 inches from where a gun shot has gone off. And think about that. And knows the difference between a firework. Now, one thing our deputies have had to get used to is a gunshot goes off, and we're in that vicinity because now it goes off on their computer in the car that there's been a shot, and it says exactly where it is. Parking lot of this apartment complex. Boom, we can go right down, like I said, 6 inches of it. Well, they don't know we're there. The shooting's still occurring. The alarms have gone up. We're on our way. We've caught a lot more bad guys that way by doing that. But we've had to teach our deputies, hey, be careful when you get there because that shooting still be going on. It's not later on, 20 minutes later, 10 minutes later, when there's a body laying there and someone sees the body and says, well, I guess we better call the police. So that's been a much more an effective crime tool. So technology, very key to what we're doing. And our computerized spent shell casings, we built our own now. So instead of taking months and months with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, we can go shoot the gun into this gel in this computer system and match those ballistics up with other crimes. So once again, helping us solve crimes. And a laser gunshot directional tracking that we have. So we can see if someone says, oh yeah, this person committed suicide. Well, we can take the lasers and see the trajectory of the bullet and say, well, that wasn't a suicide. When's the last time you saw someone kill themselves by shooting themselves in the back of the head? We all have some type of form of social media. Good and bad with social media. I'm here to tell you, you have to be careful what you post on social media because your employers are looking on social media too. So they're looking to see, you're at a party, you had a little too much to drink, your friends think it's cool to post a picture of you, maybe in that compromising position. Think about that. When you're putting it out there for the world to see. And I'm not real familiar with how Facebook works, but your whole network of friends, their friends and their friends, next thing you know, a lot of people are seeing maybe what you don't think is flattering and shouldn't be out there to begin with. We're the same thing. We have an SOP on social media too, and we crack down on social media. We had a deputy who goes to a call. The owner gets a little pissy with her, so she says, this person doesn't like cops. Well, it goes everywhere. The media grabs it, and there's this big story. Well, she got disciplined. All he did is ask her to move her patrol car out of the entrance because she was blocking the entrance to the convenience store, which is hurting his business. Can you move your car? So be careful. Don't find yourself in that position. Social media also is a great tool. It's one of the ways that we connect with the community. You know, in a technological age, people want to know what's happening. They want to know now. They don't want to know tonight at 6 or Monday what happened over the weekend. They want to know now. So we use it to put it out, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, our YouTube channel. It goes out, and it goes out as quick as we can. We also have Tip 411. It's an app on any smartphone you can use. You can be sitting in this classroom right now and say, hey, I see a guy in a gray suit. I see a bulge in his jacket. I see a gun popping out. We're coming. We're on the way, and no one even knows. No one even knows that you sent it. It's strictly confidential, and they'll send a response back to you. This is what happened. You want to complain on a neighbor, road rage, whatever. We can also use it to get information out quick. We have a missing child in Temple Terrace. We can send it out. Boom, here's a picture. Here's the car we think they may be with, and we get that information out there quick so we can even catch criminals quicker. So information and timing on information is very key. Terrorism, I hate that we have to talk about it, but you can't be in any type of law enforcement and not talk about terrorism. See something, say something, do something. That includes deputies too. If they're out there, they see something that doesn't feel right, they have to say something. None of us can turn a blind eye, whether we're on duty, off duty, citizens going through the academy. It doesn't make a difference. You see something that's not right, call. No one's going to get mad at you and say, you shouldn't have called, you shouldn't have bugged us. I promise you that. Call us. Because isn't it funny, and you guys have seen this on the media, whenever something happens, the camera guy will go up and stick a microphone to someone's face. I knew this, and I knew that, and I knew something wasn't right. Well, why didn't you say something? No one ever asked that question. So keep that in mind as you guys are out there, and I only bring it up because it affects all of us. Another threat to our community, designer drugs. And it's not just because I'm a police officer and I'm saying drugs are bad. But when you see some of these drugs and the adverse effects that they're having on people, heroin epidemic going through the northeast part of the country, you know, where they're having 20, 30 people die a day. Up there in the northeast, they have Narcan. Deputies, not medical responding personnel, but deputies, police officers have Narcan. There's so many heroin overdoses where they can save a life. So now you have police officers giving injections out there on the side of the road or wherever call for service. It is an epidemic. Spice, if people truly knew when it went into spice, and we just have been doing some search warrants around the county, they're on these dirty floors. They throw any chemical they can think of. They just throw a bunch of stuff in there to make different concoctions. And here you go, let's give it to our young people who think it's hip to go smoke it. And it's frying their brains and making them do crazy stuff. And I think if people saw how they truly behaved on it, they wouldn't do it. We're teaching our law enforcement, don't rush in. If you have a suicidal subject has a gun, we used to all run in and we would force the interaction. We would make something happen. Now we back off. If you're only a threat to yourself, we're gonna see how it plays out. As long as you're not a threat to someone else and you're only a threat to yourself, you can only hurt yourself. So you'll see that with her. Stop traffic, keep her safe, and let's see how it plays out. Allow that to de-escalate. Very big, very tremendous hot button right now. I'm sure you guys are listening, getting it from your professors. Very key right now. De-escalation. The communities around the country expect it, they demand it. So we're certainly training to de-escalate all of our law enforcement, to de-escalate, take a deep breath, work it out, allow something to play itself out when it can. Now, obviously, there are situations where it can't. But simply wanted to touch on that because of lawsuits. There are people out there, you guys see it watching the news, where their sole intent is just to provoke us. They just want to get a reaction. They just want to try to make us do something that we normally wouldn't do. Had a deputy not too long ago. Great guy, highly trained, military guy, level-headed guy. 2 gang members shoot him the bird. And he's having a bad day. He goes, oh, heck no, I'm on camera. Heck no, not today. Does a U-turn, goes back, grabs the one kid, puts him on a thing, then he hits him. There's his friend sitting there videotaping him on camera. What's he got his hands on this kid for? Because he gave him the finger? That was his intent. His intent worked. Deputy obviously got disciplined. Just not worth it. Simply there to provoke us. The homeless, I want to touch on that because it's a big part of what's happening in the Tampa Bay area right now as you're seeing it. There are people down their luck. There are people who have addiction problems. There are people who find themselves out of work. Maybe they're mentally ill, whatever the incapacity would be. PTSD from the military. We have a lot of veterans, and they find themselves in this position. It's not because they're bad people. They just need help. So back in the day, we're speaking about evolving, we would just go put handcuffs on and throw them into jail. Well, a lot of times, and this was no joke, by the time you got out or dropped them off at jail and get back to where your area of responsibility was, they're already back out there. Accomplished nothing. So our sheriff knew, hey, we had to do something different. This isn't a problem we can arrest our way out of. So we developed a homeless initiative. We had deputies in all parts of the county. If someone wants help, we're going to get them help. And they'll go out and give a card. If you want help, you truly want help, we'll get you help. Working with a lot of different charitable organizations, we get them housing, we get them clothed, we get them gainfully employed. And some of them all they want is a bus ticket to go back home. We'll give them a bus ticket to go home. Some of them we send to treatment centers. Much more conducive, much more productive than just putting a set of handcuffs on somebody. Accountability in law enforcement is different than a lot of different jobs. You make a mistake somewhere else, not a big deal. In law enforcement, it's different. You're accountable. You're charged with making split-second decisions, and it's split-second decisions that are going to last a lifetime. Think about that. So a huge, tremendous responsibility. But we're charged with that accountability. And the public is making sure that we're doing it right. Our community has to know that we care. To be successful, we can't go in there and pretend. I'm sure everyone's been, I shouldn't say it. Not everyone's been burglarized. There's some people in this room have been burglarized before. And it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling that someone came into your castle, into your home, your most protected space, and has taken some of your stuff. I'm not talking about an unlocked car door where someone took your stuff because you left the door unlocked. That's like a crime of opportunity. But someone came in there. Imagine having that deputy sheriff go in there and said, I just want to do this and do this. I'm going to go eat. Got to go meet my buddy. Got to do this. No. They have to know we care. I said before, it may not be a law enforcement problem. Let's get you a number to TICO. Let's get you a number to wherever it is. It may not be a law enforcement problem, but the problem's going to stop with us. We're going to get you that help you need. They have to know we care. And law enforcement is also unique because we all depend on each other. It is a team. You guys have found that already, even going through the academy, going through your academy. Students helping each other when you're in the class. Law enforcement's no different. It's unique because everyone depends on everyone else. One doesn't work without the other. It just doesn't work. Another thing that's different in law enforcement too is we work in the same communities that we serve. We see the traffic problems, we see the drug problems, we see whatever issue may be. We work here, we play here, our children are being raised here, we're here too. So of course we want to make the community better because we live in it. It's not like at the end of the day, a plane's going to pick us up and take us to California. We're just here to work. So as you guys will see, all of you in here, it's different because you live here, you care. There's that sense of investment. So today, what am I hoping that you take away from today is trust yourself and your instincts and be ready to make a difference. It doesn't matter, detention, child protective services, maybe someone will be a civilian employee at a governmental agency. Whatever the case may be, trust yourself, trust your instincts, and make yourself be that person that makes a difference. And I've always told myself that if I went into a career here in law enforcement and I left the agency better than when I came, I would consider that a successful career. Make a difference. Make it better than when you left. Make your community better. What a great opportunity. You can go out there and make your community better. Not everybody can say that about their career. Criminology majors, you can. Some of you have aspirations to go federal, go different. It doesn't make a difference. It's all keeping our community safe. And everyone matters. It doesn't matter who you are, color of your skin, how much money you make. Everyone matters. Treat everyone the same. At the end of the day, most importantly, regardless of what you do throughout the day, you have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I did the best I could do. Yes, you're going to make mistakes. I still make mistakes. Learn from those mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. Learn from those mistakes. Put your head on the pillow at the end of the night knowing that I did the best I could. And if you can't, think about what you could do better and wake up the next day and do it again.